Hi everyone, I welcome you all to our history class. In the previous chapter, under the title The French Revolution, you read about the most powerful ideas of liberty, equality that circulated in Europe after the French Revolution. The most inspiring ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity that motivated many political movements in the world in 19th and 20th centuries. And today, I wish to start the second chapter in history, that is socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. You know, the French Revolution had impacted the whole world. It had brought about several changes in the world. Now, the Russian revolutionaries were greatly inspired by the French Revolution. Now, in this chapter, we are going to learn about all these things. Okay, children? Let us take a look at the topics that are going to be covered under this title Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. Topics are the age of social change, the crisis of Tsarism, the nature of social movements between 1905 and 1917, the First World War and the foundation of a Soviet state, the legacy. So these are the topics we are going to discuss in this title. Okay, dear children? Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. The years of social change. The French Revolution had a major impact on Europe and the world. Just before I told you in introduction that the French Revolution had a major impact on Europe. It had impacted the whole world. So here the French Revolution had a major impact on Europe and the world. The social and political changes that took place all over Europe can be traced to the French Revolution. So people were redeemed from their bondage because of the French Revolution. Because the great ideals like liberty, equality, and fraternity had delivered the people from their bondages, my dears. So here, the French Revolution had a major impact on Europe and the world. So the social and political changes that took place all over Europe can be traced to the French Revolution. Many countries and many moments, many revolutions were greatly inspired by the French Revolution. The French Revolution gave the Russian revolutionaries the inspiration needed to carry out their plans. Even in Russia, the Russian revolutionaries got inspired by the ideals of the French Revolution. So the French Revolution gave the Russian revolutionaries the inspiration needed to carry out their plans. We know in the year 1917, the Great Russian Revolution broke out. So the revolution in Russia, the revolutionaries in Russia got inspired by the ideals of the French Revolution. The Russian Revolution popularized the ideas of socialism to shape the society in the 20th century. The Russian Revolution popularized the ideas of socialism. Today, we learn about the socialism and communism. And here, the Russian Revolution popularized that idea of socialism. And it had shaped the society in the 20th century. And there were three groups of people in Europe, my dears. We find three types of or groups of people in Europe. They were called liberals, number one, number two, radicals, and number three, conservatives. Liberals, radicals, and conservatives. And these three groups believed in their notions. Now let us discuss what were their notions. First of all, the liberals, the first group called liberals. So liberals wanted to change the society and they wanted tolerance towards all religions. And in Europe, there were many religions. Many religions were found in a nation. So here the liberals wanted to promote religious tolerance among the people and they wanted to change the society just by bringing religious tolerance among the people. So here liberals wanted to change society and they wanted tolerance towards all religions. Religious tolerance they sought. And these liberals opposed absolute powers enjoyed by the monarchs in Europe. And you know very well, in the French Revolution, we discussed the monarchs. So the France was ruled by so many monarchs, and most of the countries in Europe were ruled by monarchs. So these monarchs enjoyed absolute powers. Absolute authority was vested in their hands. So they neglected the welfare of the people. So they did not take any measures for the welfare of the people. And they believed in autocracy. And they also propagated the what we can call absolute powers and the divine rights theory. They propagated the divine rights. They strongly believed in divine rights and propagated about them. What is divine rights theory? King is a direct representative of God. The divine right says king is appointed by God here on earth. So he had all the powers to rule. So they believed, the monarchs believed in divine rights theory and considered themselves as the representatives of God here on earth. But whereas here, my dear children, here the liberals totally opposed absolute powers which were enjoyed by monarchs in Europe. In most of the European countries, monarchs ruled. But here, the liberals in Europe virtually opposed the absolute powers enjoyed by the monarchs in Europe. They vehemently opposed absolute powers enjoyed by monarchs because they wanted the powers to be distributed among the people. So the liberals opposed absolute powers enjoyed by monarchs in Europe. And they also wanted to safeguard the rights of individuals. In those times, there were no rights for the people, no rights at all for the citizens. But here now the liberals wanted to safeguard the rights of the individuals. So they began to fight for the rights of the individuals. So liberals stood for the rights of the individuals and they wanted to safeguard and save the rights of the individuals. And they wanted to redeem the people, deliver the people from the clutches of monarchs. So they wanted to safeguard the rights of individuals. They favored for a democratic setup of government and autonomous judiciary. The liberals also favored for a democratic setup of government. So they longed for a democratic system of government. And also they looked for autonomous means here independent judiciary. Judiciary should be autonomous, it should be independent. And the rulers should not have any role in that judiciary. It should be an autonomous body. So here the liberals wanted that kind of autonomous judiciary. They looked for autonomous judiciary and democratic setup of government. And liberals cannot be called Democrats actually. Why? Okay, they have the liberal views. They had the liberal views, so they propagated the liberal views, liberal ideals. But whereas here the liberals cannot be called true Democrats. Why? Because they did not favor universal adult franchise, my children. Do you know about the universal adult franchise? It is nothing but right to vote. All the adults, all the able adults must be given a right to vote. And that is called universal adult franchise. But unfortunately here, the liberals did not have faith in universal adult franchise. That is the saddest thing. Though they aspired for a democratic setup of government, though they looked for autonomous judiciary and worked for the safeguarding of the rights of the individuals, they cannot be called true Democrats because they did not favor universal adult franchise. That's why these liberals cannot be called true Democrats, as they did not favor or support universal adult franchise. They did not like to grant a universal adult franchise or right to vote to all people. And these liberals favored voting rights only for men, not for women, my dear children. They favored the right to vote only for men. See the discrimination here. Though they had liberal views, liberal ideals, yet they were showing discrimination towards women. So they favored voting rights only for men and not for women. That's why they cannot be called true Democrats, my dears. But anyhow, the views, the ideals expressed by the liberals were supported by many millions of people in Europe and the world in general. So these are the ideals or the views of the liberals. That was the first group in Europe, my dears. First one, liberals. We had just now heard about the views of liberals. And the second one, my dear children, who are called radicals. The second type of group which were called radicals. Radicals wanted a nation in which the government was based on majority of a country's population. Radicals, a kind of group, a second group it is. So radicals wanted a nation in which the government was based on a majority of a country's population. The government must be based upon a majority. It should be established by a majority of country's population, not by a minority population, but the government should be established by a majority of a country's population. That was the view of radicals. They supported women's right. It's welcome. They supported women's right, my dear children. Radicals supported women's rights, but whereas here liberals did not support women's right. But as far as radicals are concerned, they were supporters of women's rights. They strongly supported women's rights. And radicals disliked the concentration of property in the hands of few. In those times, the property was concentrated in the hands of few people only. But here the radicals disliked this concentration of property in the hands of few, and that should be, according to them, that should be distributed among the people. That's why the radicals disliked the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, my dears. And radicals were not against the existence of private property. They were not against the private property. Truly, they were not against the existence of private property. But they were against the concentration of property in the hands of few. So these are the views of radicals, the second group. And now we are going to learn about the third group, that is conservatives, my dears. Conservatives. Conservatives. Conservatives are the third group, and these conservatives opposed the views of liberals and radicals. This conservative group opposed the views of liberals and radicals because the conservatives felt the need for change. They also looked for change. They felt the need for change, but they believed that the old order had to be respected and restored. Remember, my dear children, here, the conservatives believed in the old order. What was the old order? That is monarchy. Monarchy. They believed in monarchy. After the French Revolution, many monarchies, many monarchical governments were abolished. They were fallen. But now the conservatives in Europe wanted to restore and rejuvenate all the fallen empires in Europe. That's why they strongly believed in the old order, old monarchy. So they wanted to restore all the fallen kingdoms in Europe. So conservatives believed that the old order had to be respected and restored. Remember, my dear children, here the conservatives strongly believed in the old order, that is, old monarchies. So that is the third group of people. We have just now learned about three important groups. Who they were? Number one, liberals. Number two, radicals. And number three, conservatives, my dears. And the remaining topics we shall discuss in the next video in detail. So keep on reading and keep on watching. Okay? Thank you, my dear children, for watching this video. Bye.